It happened during lunch duty. A student tapped me on the shoulder and asked, Miss, why do the honors classes get new books and we don't? I paused. It wasn't the question that caught me off guard, it was the way he asked. Like he knew the answer, he just wanted to hear if I'd say it out loud. That moment stuck with me because it's not just about books, it's about belonging, value, and visibility. That student saw inequality and didn't have the vocabulary for it, but he felt it deeply. And the truth is, he's not alone. Students know when they're being shortchanged, they know when they're being tracked, ignored, or underestimated. They just need adults who are brave enough to name it and committed enough to change it. My name is Sierra Jones, and I am a math educator and a trainer, and someone who believes that every child deserves more than a seat in the classroom. They deserve a system that sees them and serves them. Today, I want to invite you to imagine something radically better. A school system that doesn't just patch up the cracks, but rebuilds the foundation. So let's imagine it. In this vision, we ask kids to leave part of themselves at the door in order to succeed. In this system, equity is not a side initiative, it's a standard. Classrooms are culturally responsive by design. The curriculum reflects global perspectives, not just dominant narratives. Students see their language, identities, and histories woven into learning, not erased from it. Teachers don't just know their content, they know their kids. They understand that students' lived experience is not a barrier to overcome, but a resource to build on. In this system, students with disabilities aren't isolated or stigmatized. Instead, they're empowered by the educational ecosystem that Garcia and Johnson in 2024 describe as one that centers inclusivity and family voice at every level. And leadership. It looks like what Wells and Maxey in 2023 calls equity-focused pathways, where school leaders are taught how to dismantle bias, confront systematic gaps, and rebuild trust with the communities. In this system, the question isn't how can we raise test scores, it's how can we raise humanity. Because equity isn't just a policy goal, it's a reflection of our values. Let me tell you another moment that actually helped shape me. It was during a group discussion in my Algebra 2 class where we were working on systems of equations. And I was doing what I thought was a pretty good job, connecting it to real world examples like calculating the cell phone plans and those cost comparisons. But then one of my students, let's say his name is Malik, leaned back in his chair and said, math doesn't care about me. So why should I care about math? At first, I didn't know what to say. It caught me off guard, actually. But I didn't dismiss it. I asked him what he meant. And what he said blew my mind. He said, we only ever do problems about people I don't know, places I've never been, or stuff I don't care about. None of it connects to where I'm from. I don't see people like me in those books, so what's the point? That moment hit me in the chest because he wasn't just talking about math. He was talking about representation, about relevance, and about belonging. And the truth is, he was right. Too often we treat subjects like math, science, or history as neutral, as if numbers and data and formulas are immune to bias, but they're not. Curriculum sends messages, and they're loud. It tells students whose knowledge is valuable, whose stories are important, and whose system was built for. When students never see themselves reflected in the problems they solve, the people they read about, or the innovations they study, it's not just disengaging, it's dehumanizing. And Malik wasn't the only student who felt that way. He was just the one brave enough to say it out loud. If we want to create an equitable system, we have to stop pretending education is neutral. It's never been neutral. Every choice we make, what we teach, how we assess, whose voice we uplift is either reinforcing inequality, equity, or disrupting it. Of course, getting to the vision isn't simple. The barriers are real and they're deeply rooted. Let's talk about discipline. We still see Black and brown students suspended and expelled at a disproportionately higher rate for the same behaviors as their white peers. We're criminalizing behavior that should honestly be coached, not punished. We also see barriers in access. Students of color underrepresented in gifted programs, advanced coursework, and STEM tracks. Not because they aren't capable, but because someone decided they weren't ready. We see barriers in special education where families must fight to be heard, to be taken seriously, to get what their child is legally entitled to. And often those most impacted are Black and brown students. But the biggest barrier of all is complacency. The belief that these gaps are unfortunate but unavoidable. Let me be clear. Inequity is not an accident. It's a result of design. And if the design, it can be redesigned. So how do we redesign education in a way that's bold, lasting, and just? Number one, center community voice. Too often decisions are made for communities, not with them. Equity-focused leadership requires that we listen deep and often. Wells and Maxey in 2023 stresses this. Equity leadership isn't about charisma, it's about the partnership. That means creating school policies with families. That means having advisory boards made up of multilingual parents, parents of students with IEPs, and students themselves. It means putting relationships before reforms. Number two, redesign professional development. We can't expect teachers to practice equity if we haven't trained them to recognize bias, trauma, culture as part of the instruction. Bird in 2016 found that students in culturally responsive classrooms reported higher engagement and strong academic outcomes. But here's the part that really stuck out. They also felt a sense of belonging, and belonging is the foundation of learning. That's why teachers' learning must go beyond theory. It must include spaces for reflection, collaboration, and unlearning harmful assumptions. And last, number three, reimagine curriculum with relevance. A culturally responsive curriculum isn't soft or off topic, it's rigorous because it's relevant. Imagine using algebra to analyze the wealth gap, or teaching linear equations through food deserts and grocery prices. Imagine social studies that unpacks historical narratives from multiple cultural lenses. In my own classroom, when students analyzed income inequality through graphing, they lit up. Why? Because the numbers suddenly meant something. That's what relevance does. It bridges identities and instruction. It invites students to bring their whole selves to the classroom. So what now? We can no longer afford to be passive participants in a system that doesn't serve all students. We can't just admire equity from a distance. We have to build it in our classrooms, in our policies, and in our relationships. And the good news is, we don't have to start from scratch. The research exists, the models exist, the passion exists. What's needed is alignment and commitment from leaders, from educators, and from those willing to challenge the status quo. We need to push back against narratives that those kids can achieve. We need to create classrooms where students are not just seen, but celebrated. And we need to celebrate that equity is not a checklist, but a mindset. It's not about giving everyone the same thing. It's about giving each student what they need to thrive. Education is supposed to be the great equalizer. Let's make that true. Let's create schools where joy, justice, and genius aren't rare, they're the rule. Because when every student belongs, every student can rise. Thank you.